Hey, hello everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Local Lobat. For a change in this video, we are going to do it in English because a lot of my friends in Europe and Indonesia have requested to make some content in English. This video, which because it's around OpenAI and large language models, we are going to do it in English. I'll continue making some videos in Hindi as well. But this video very specifically will be in English. In this video, what we are going to do is we are going to do a similar thing like the previous one where we created a chatbot with which you can chat with any PDF. Similarly, in this video, we are going to create a chatbot with which you can chat with any CSV file or an Excel file. Now, one important question that comes is like, why do you want to do it? One of the reasons is that if let's say you are into stock trading, you're buying stocks and you're buying mutual funds, for example, you might want to download all the data of companies and see their fund performance or company performance of the last 5 years or last 3 years. These are usually in the form of CSV files or Excel files. Similarly, a lot of people also have this habit that they track their financials still on an Excel or a CSV file. So you could upload your financials to this chatbot and ask questions like, hey, what was my spend in the last 1 month? Or how much did I spend on groceries in the month of September, for example? Similarly, still a lot of friends that I know do their itinerary planning and their entire trip planning on an Excel file or a CSV file. So you could share this file, upload it into the chatbot, and then ask questions like, hey, where are we going on day 2 of our Vietnam trip? So all these things will become possible when you have this chatbot. And one important point here is that we are going to build this chatbot using TypeScript or JavaScript and also using LangChain. What is LangChain? I will tell you in detail. Let me start sharing my screen with all of you first. So here we are. LangChain is basically a framework that provides a layer of abstraction for us. For example, if you're building a chatbot, you might need a CSV parser, right? The very first thing you will need for a CSV chatbot is you will need a CSV parser. You will need some way to convert it into text, and then because a CSV can be very huge, you might want to break it down into smaller parts as well. Similarly, after this, you would want to save it in some database. And then you would also need to connect it to a large language model. So LangChain is a framework that provides you some abstractions, basically some simple functions or wrappers to do all these things very easily. If I have to write this all manually, it becomes very difficult. So we'll be using LangChain, which does this behind some wrappers or some abstractions and makes our life easier. So without any further ado, we'll start coding. The first thing that we need to do is I've set up a repo already. I'll share this in the description of this video. But what we have to do is we have to install LangChain in our repo. So I'll quickly install LangChain here. And while this is being installed, what our CSV is going to do, or what our chatbot is going to do, is we are going to upload it this CSV, which is basically an SAP of 500 companies. Basically, in simpler terms, this is the dividend yield or the EBITDA or the price sales of certain companies. We are going to upload the CSV to our chatbot, then ask questions related to the CSV. So the process is going to look something like this. What we are going to do is we are going to load our CSV file via some document loader. And once our file is loaded, we are going to use something called as a text splitter to split it into smaller chunks. So let's focus on this particular section first. This is the one that we need to focus on first. Okay, so how we are going to do is this, we are going to use a document loader that is provided by LangChain. So very simple, we go to LangChain, and the first thing that I would recommend everybody to do is learn how to use a documentation really well. So you see there is a search box here. We are going to search for document loaders. So it will give us some, let's say, document loader data connection here. And on the left hand side, we see there is a section for integrations. And in integrations, there are file loaders. And the kind of file that we are dealing with today is called as a CSV file. So I will click on CSV file. And the first thing it is asking me to do is install this package. Now, what this package does is it's basically helping you parse the CSV easily. LangChain internally will use this. So that is why it is asking us to install this package. So I'll copy paste this, go to my terminal. I think LangChain is still being installed here. So while that is happening, we will see our diagram here that after uploading the CSV file, we will split it into smaller chunks. The reason we split it into smaller chunks is because let's say your CSV file is 10,000 rows long. In order to save it or in order to read through it, you might want to break it down into smaller chunks of, let's say, 1,000 rows each, because the search would become easier. I'll explain later how it will become easier, but we would want to break it down into smaller chunks, and we will do that using something called as a text splitter. So we need to first install this package. Let's say if LangChain is installed, LangChain is already installed. We'll go here and install this package also. This is also installed for us. Let's go here. And the next step it wants us is, because in our diagram, we see we need a document loader. So as I told you, LangChain provides some wrappers on top of it. So this is the wrapper. So every document loader has a loader function that is available. So we will first import the CSV loader in our code. I've already initialized an app.ts file. So I'll go here, initialize my CSV loader. Actually import my CSV loader. Now I need to, as per the documentation, I need to initialize this with the path to my document. So I will go again here and copy paste this, and the path to my document is inside this documents directory. I've already saved my CSV here. I will get the name from here and I will say it is inside documents slash dot CSV. And finally, what I have to do is I need to load this. So I will say await loader dot load, and this will load my docs file, load my CSV document. In order to see this, what I'll do is I'll do console.log docs, and let me clear this and run npm run dev. Let's see if till this point we are correct. So I think it is loaded this data, and you can see all the document has come here. Centerpoint company has come here. CenturyLink telecommunication services has come here. So perfect. So far, we're doing well. The next step in our process is, if we go to the diagram, it is splitting it into chunks. So again, we go back to the documentation. We are done with document loaders, so we will close it. And then we will go to document transformers. And here we see there is text splitters. And we need something called as recursively split by text. So again, similarly, we'll import this function that is provided by LangChain. And then the next step we are going to do is we are going to initialize this function. So let's initialize this function. And let's say we set the chunk size to be 1,000 and the chunk overlap to be 200. Now, chunk size in very simple terms is that you have a 10,000 row column, 10,000 row CSV. Let's say you're breaking it down into chunk sizes of 1,000 each. It is slightly more complicated than that, but for simplicity, we're breaking it down by, let's say, every 1,000 row is a separate chunk for me, for example. And the overlap is that two chunks can have similarities between them. For example, 1,000 row can have an overlap with, let's say, the next row there. So we initialize a splitter, and finally, what we do is we actually call this function and split our documents. So we name this splitted docs, and we say split documents, and we pass it our documents that we initialize here. So until this point, we have got the documents that have been split, and we have got chunks. Chunks are created. Now we go to the next step of our diagram and see what we have to do. After the chunks are created, we need to create embeddings API. We need to call the embeddings API and then embeddings will be created. Now, what are embeddings? It's a more complicated concept, but in simpler terms, if I have to explain, when you have location data is usually a lat long coordinate, right? So similarly, embeddings are also coordinates in that way, but instead of it being only X and Y, it is actually X, Y, Z, X1, Y1, Z1. So the coordinates are huge. So basically, they have a lot of uh, XYZ coordinates which can be plotted on a vector space. In simpler language, if this was a 2D graph, your embeddings would something be like this, like one embedding would be here, the other embedding would be here, third embedding maybe would be here, and we are going to search something by how far one embedding is from the other. So you see if this is here and let's say there is one more embedding here, we can see that in terms of how close something is, this and this embedding. So let's say this embedding is for cheese. Let's say, for example, this embedding is for butter, and this embedding is, let's say, for the color red, and this embedding is, let's say, for milk. So when I search for milk, the closest search that I will get is cheese and butter and not red, because cheese and butter are more closely linked to milk, and that is why their embedding in the vector space would also be closer to each other. And embeddings usually have more than three coordinates, like it's not always XYZ, it is a lot of coordinates here. So for simplicity, I've only done this, but there are a lot of coordinates. And once we have the embeddings, we will save it in a vector DB. Now, vector DBs are also a lot of them that are available. We'll talk about them, but let's first go and create embeddings. We will again go back to the documentation and close document transformers and then go to text embedding models. In integrations, you see there are a lot of embedding models that are available. We are going to choose something that ChatGPT uses, basically OpenAI. So we click on OpenAI and we, again, the very first thing that we are going to do is we are going to import the embeddings. So we import the embeddings and then we initialize it with our key. So we go here, we are going to initialize it. Let's remove the batch size from here and our API key will be read from an environment variable. So we'll say that here. So this will be our environment variable by which the embeddings from OpenAI will be read. Think until this we are clear that we have created our embeddings. Now we are going to save it in some vector store. So we have to go inside vector store, and there are so many vector stores that are available. There is memory, analytics, DB. One of them, which is very famous, is Pinecone. But in this video, we are going to use a vector store called as HNSWIB because it's an in-memory vector store. I don't have to set up any cloud database or anything like that. It's an in-memory vector store, so it's easy to set up. So what we are going to do is we are going to install this library first. While this is happening, we'll see how to store your embeddings inside the vector store. So what we have to do is it's a simple process. We create a vector store like this. We go here and say, first we need to import it. So we are going to import this library. And then we are going to say not from text, but from documents. And we are going to pass our documents here and our OpenAI embeddings here. And this is how our vector store is created. So this until this point, our vector store is created. Our data is now stored in the vector store. Our embeddings are stored inside the store. Now the next thing that we need to know is how do we ask question to this chatbot? So for that, we are going to look at this diagram. So as a user, when you ask a question, very similar to how we create the data into embeddings and save it. Similarly, every question is also converted into an embedding, which is using the same OpenAI embeddings API. LangChain does it behind the scene using wrappers. but it calls this API, creates an embedding, and then based on some similarity search or semantic search, it will go to the vector DB, return the matching documents for you, which basically means there could be you're asking for, let's say, give me the financial for Reliance. But for Reliance, it could be Reliance Jio, Reliance Electric, Reliance Fiber, or could be any of them, right? So it will give you some matching documents, which are basically the chunks that we created. And finally, to extract a proper answer out of these multiple chunks that we have, we will pass this chunks that we have got to something called as an LLM model, which is a large language model. If you have used ChatGPT, it is basically GPT 3.5 Turbo. Or if you have GPT-4, that can also be used. Hugging Face also provides a lot of large language models. Facebook also has its own large language model. In this example, we are going to use GPT 3.5 Turbo. So we will pass all these chunks to our language model, which will translate it into an answer and send it to our users. How are we going to do that? Very simple. We will go back again to our library. The first thing that we will need is something called as chains, and we will use the popular chain, which is Retrieval QA. So we will import this chain here because we need a large language model also. So we will import OpenAI as well because this model will give us GPT 3.5 Turbo. So what we'll do is we'll first create the model here. We will say model new OpenAI, and we will say that the model name would be GPT 3.5. I think the name is this. Let me verify it here. It is GPT 3.5 Turbo. Okay. So now my large language model is initialized. Init LLM model. Now I need some way to extract the embeddings from my vector store. So I'll say I need a vector store retriever, and that will be using, again, going back here, that is basically like this. So I'll go here and create a vector store retriever. And finally, I will create a chain which will chain my model with the vector store retrieval. So I need to import this chain, which I've already done. So I'll say retrieval QA chain from LLM, pass it the model that I have, and also pass it the vector store retriever that we have. Now this has created a chain, and now I can ask any question to it. So my question would be, let's say, let me go back to my CSV file that I have. This is the CSV file, and I will ask questions like, what was the EBITDA for advanced auto parts? Okay, so let me ask this question. What is the EBITDA for advanced auto parts? Answer would be something like this. Await chain, and I have to call this chain with the query, and the query is basically my question. And then I will console.log both the question and the answer. Okay, let's try to run this now. And we face an error saying OpenAI key not found. The reason is I am using an environment variable here. I've initialized my key inside env file, but I need to load a package so that that environment variable can be fed into this file. Now that library is called as .env. We'll go to .env. This is loading. Let's go to the package itself. We need to install it like this. So let's install .env. Then we are going to import it here. Import star as .env from .env. and then ask it to import all the environment variables defined inside .env file. So now if you see, I've created a QA chain, I've asked the question, I've asked the answer, and then we are going to run this now and let's see if we get the correct answer or not. It takes a bit of a second and hopefully it should run. What is the EBITDA for advanced auto part? It has exactly written as the EBITDA for advanced auto part is here, which is correct. We can verify it as well. The EBITDA is this. Okay, perfect. Let's ask one more question. What is the dividend yield of the same company? So we will go here, we'll ask one more question, and then I will also show you a UI which is using the chatbot like this. What is the dividend yield for advanced auto part? Pass this question here and then console.log the question, console.log the answer, and let's console log both the question and the answer that we have. Let's run it again and see if it works. And it will take few seconds to execute. The first answer should be correct, which is nice, good, and the dividend yield has also come out. So both of the answers we have got. Now I think this completes the chatbot part of things that we have created. First thing, we are using a CSV loader to load our CSV document. Then we are splitting it into chunks using a recursive character text splitter. Then we are calling the OpenAI embeddings API to create embeddings. And then we are saying store it in the vector store, which is this. Finally, to question and answer to this chatbot, we are initializing our OpenAI model via GPT 3.5 Turbo. We are creating a retriever to get the embeddings out of the vector store, and then we are connecting the model with the vector store retrieval via our retrieval QA chain. And then via this chain, we are actually asking questions and getting answers. Now I'll show you a sample UI where we are going to upload our CSV file, and our CSV file is here. We upload the CSV, click on the upload button, and I'm going to ask the same question that I did in that demo. So upload is success. And now we are going to ask the same question. What is the EBITDA for, what was it? For advanced auto parts. For advanced auto parts. And let's see if the answer comes out correct. Perfect. It is 853 some dollars that has come out. Let's ask our next question also. What is the dividend yield? And hopefully that will also come out to be correct. Perfect. But overall, if you like the video, please do subscribe to the channel. If you want to read how to apply for jobs in Europe, there are certain videos that I've done. If you want to see how is the life in Europe, there are certain videos that I've done here. And if you want to see a similar video like this, where I've created a chatbot to talk to a PDF, this is the video that you should refer to. And I hope you like the content, and I'll be making many more such videos in the future. Thank you.